two things. One is we all learn from people asking questions and students.
Right.
And the second thing is empathy is probably the most important human characteristic from the standpoint of living life. And it's the way you reframe situations, Someone cuts me off while driving. It's a woman. I think she's going to the hospital for a baby, and it's a guy. I think he's going to take care of his wife.
There you go.
And it does get some interesting comments from me in my mind, which obviously refocuses when you see the very old guy and you say, well, why is he having another kid? Or
Grandpa.
The voice you just heard was Dr. Michael Roizen. And oh my God, I got so much out of that. And I can't wait to literally re listen to it because we just recorded it and read some of the show notes that we're going to post. Connie, just tell our listeners who he is.
Yeah, and before you say that, I wanted to take notes. I was actually really struggling because I wanted to take notes while I was doing. The good thing is we can go back and re-listen to it right with our listeners. But before we launch into the episode, I'd love to just share a little bit with our listeners of who he is, because Dr. Roizen is a pioneer in the field of longevity and wellness, a space that could be really crowded and very complex, but he simplified it for us. It's not based on theories. The work he talks about is based on science. He's the best-selling author of Real Age, a phenomenon. It's a book that you can reference, but we'll have a lot of the great materials also in the show notes. He's empowered millions of us, including now all of you, to extend your health span, live with purpose. And again, he gives lots of great little nuggets for us to follow along with. So we hope you enjoyed as much as we did.
Let's take a listen. Mike, thank you so much for agreeing to do this podcast with us, for going through all of the technical challenges and difficulties that we've encountered to get to us to be doing this. We are very grateful and very honored that you agreed to do this podcast, Mike.
I'm the one who's on. Thank you. And your spirit is exactly the spirit that I believe I've tried to get in all of our work. That is, health is fun. And the cartoons and the books, etc., are all in an attempt to take a subject that otherwise could be dry and not followed and make it enjoyable and pursued.
I think that's great because nowadays what we find is that the longevity discussion is so prolific that there's so much information. It's almost like an overload. And so people are looking for simple messages. And I think that that's a great approach to it. Connect with people.
Well, it really is quite simple. You get to control your genes, the switches on your genes. We now know we call epigenes. You control them. So when you do healthy choices, you turn on genes that give you joy and health, and you turn off genes that create inflammation and other adverse quantities. So the message you have, which is be the sun, not the salt, is perfect for what we think should be the message of health.
Oh, I so love this. We have prepared so many questions and thoughts and conversation starters, and I love that you just summarized it all in that opening. So let's just go to town and try and help as many people as we can by keeping it simple, making it easy, making it not hard, making it more fun, and more people will go, I can do that. Connie?
Right. Yeah. And we didn't get a chance to meet earlier. I'm Connie Fontaine. So Harry and I connected several years ago about this book and this idea to put it out in the world. We've known each other for 30 years. So we love to have these kinds of conversations. We've been working together to spread this. That's why I'm the chief super spreader. And we look forward to spreading your message. And it's a little selfish because, quite frankly, at 60 now, I was really excited to see that you were saying things like we could turn the biological clock backwards a little bit.
Well, you can slow the rate of aging. So at 75, a woman is physiologically 44, 31 years. If you did all 150 things in, that have at least 2 studies in humans showing, and about 29 years. But the real breakthrough is that if you stay young, you may be able to get younger. What we mean by that is, although you can slow aging, so that you can be physiologically. When you're 90, you may be able to turn the clock back to 40. That's the message of aging research that is now present. So
Wow.
that's the amazing thing. So you're not only able to slow it, which we knew in by current choices, but
Mhm.
there is the chance that by some specific things in 14 different areas, you may be able to get much younger.
Well, and we'll work to put all that the details of those 14 in the show notes because I know we won't have time to take on the amount of research you have, but we do want to get these ideas in front of everyone. And the most important thing you just said is it's about choice. It's that role of a mindset shift. It's the role of personal agency, choosing to be your own source of wellness. And that is what I think without that, you're not going to be able to slow the aging process. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, you've opened up a big field, which is behavior change.
Mhm.
So if you look at it, why is medicine so expensive in America? Well, if you said how many people have what we call 6+2 normals, normal blood pressure, normal fasting blood sugar, normal LDL cholesterol, normal
Mhm.
waist for a height, no cotinine tobacco end products in the urine, and doing stress management, and then see a primary care physician and screenings up to date. Well, in America at age 47, it's only 6%. But at age 65, when we're paying for Medicare, we're sharing that burden. It is
Mhm.
0.06%. Less than 1% of us have that.
Wow.
And at the Cleveland Clinic, we pay people to get there. They get the maximum allowable by law,
Mhm.
$1,680 now. If you get to those 6 normals plus 2 and follow the full set, and now 75% voluntarily participate, 45% get there. It saves us about 190 million a year over our trend line
Wow.
and over what our competitors get and what the national average is. And that has saved us a little over 1.5 billion since we started the program. It's roughly half of our, if you will, margin. Now,
Mhm.
the message on that is, why does it take an incentive of money to do it? Why
Mhm.
don't people do it naturally? That is, why don't we get the behavior change without giving them a large incentive? And I
Right.
think it's because although people know they're the choices, our reptilian brains, yeah, I'd rather have, if you will, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or I'd rather have, if you will, red meat,
Mhm.
and fried, whatever it is in the season of,
Right.
uh, if you will, the summer festivals. They
Mhm.
um, do something other than that, such as
Right.
having avocado or having salmon. And the reason is we don't market. You are doing this. That's
Right.
why I agreed to do this. You are really marketing that the choices can be both fun and healthy. And our, if you will, be the sun, not the salt, is
That's
exactly
right.
that. It is making choices that are fun and that will also give you what we call slowing the aging process and maybe set you up for longevity.
That's right.
Let
Siri.
let me ask you a question, Mike. Of all the lectures that you do and this information, wisdom, science that that you impart to people, what have you found flips the switch more easily for people to then do the behavior change on a more regular basis, easily and consistently, and therefore, the listeners of this podcast will go, "Oh, I could do that. That's not a bridge too far." So, give some of the easy ones that you've said, and it makes people go, "I'm on it. I'm going to do it." And then when you see them later, you're proud, they're proud, and everybody wins.
Well, the easiest thing to do is to first understand you have control over 93% of your genes. So whether you suffer and whether you have arthritis, whether you have a problem and pain someplace, it is largely your choices that have set that up, and you can stop setting it up. So one is understand you have control, and then two, find the person's motivator. So I'm privileged to work in executive health at the Cleveland Clinic, 90-minute visit. I spend 90 minutes trying to find what is their motivator. Is it their grandkids? Is it sex? Is it whatever, the food, they enjoy food? It is trying to find their motivator. And then you play on their motivator and find things they want to do. So I can give you there literally are now 108. When we wrote the first real age book, there were 151 with at least 2 studies in humans that changed the rate of aging. There now are 185. So is it avoiding secondhand smoke and choosing, if you want to use marijuana, is it choosing gummies versus smoking it? Makes a huge difference. Is it walking? People, 10,000 steps a day really is a magic number. Yeah, 6,000 is better than 4, and 4 is better than 2, but 12 isn't better than 10. So you really want to get to 10,000 steps a day. Is it a progressive walking program that gets them there? Is it just getting a flu shot? Getting a flu shot 10 years in a row decreases your risk of dementia by over 40% and decreases your risk of heart attack and stroke by over 25% because it decreases inflammation. And the 10 years in a row are the accumulation of fighting it so you don't get inflammation, even if a great deal of inflammation. Is it taking a baby aspirin with half a glass of warm water before and afterward? Is it choosing a collagen preparation that's inexpensive, such as gelatin? I think gelatin is even made in Buffalo, New York. Is it, there are a whole, I can't even begin. So these are great, but it has something that they find easy. Is it double breathing? So put your finger on your belly button, Harry.
Okay.
Take a breath in, hold it, take a big breath on top of that. Did your finger go in or out?
Went out.
That's the way it should do. You're breathing with your diaphragm. Most people breathe with their chest, and when they breathe in, their diaphragm. So just practicing that 10 times a day strengthens the second most important muscle in your body. So
I love these. Give us some mindset one.
Your diaphragm is the second most important muscle in your body. So you do exercise like weightlifting and cardio to strengthen your brain and your first most important muscle, your heart. The second most important is your diaphragm. And the third is what we're using now, our tongues.
Wow. I've learned so much already, and I can just picture all of our listeners driving in their car with their finger in their belly button right now.
Yeah, well, as they keep the upper hand on the wheel.
That's right.
And notice you're drinking water, hydrate. I want more mindset shifts that to be true would help people go, I could shift when someone cuts them off on the highway. To Connie's point, give us here's one that we know to be true. Easy for people to shift the way they either think or speak or do. That would be, oh my, well, that's easy.
Larry, you probably can do much better than I. I always think of reframing the situation. So when someone cuts me off, I think, well, they're having a baby. They got to get to the hospital fast or something like that.
But I want to know, let me interrupt you for a second. When you say that reframing, which is perfect, and that's assume positive intent, is the science behind that really true that it helps you? I believe that it does. I certainly feel better. But give us the science that, yep, it is true for your well-being and longevity, that reframing, that mini stress management moment is really good for us.
The greatest ager of all is unmanaged stress, Harry. And unfortunately, the data on how to manage it isn't specific in any one way, other than we know that if you call 6 friends, if you're vulnerable to 6 people a month, way back in the Whitehall studies in Great Britain, confirmed in the Alameda County studies in California in the 50s, and now confirmed multiple times that talking to people is the best stress management. So we have a phrase, posse, purpose, and play. Those are the 3 most important things. So I think from an easy standpoint, it's calling someone and talking it out. That's the posse. And so making 6 phone calls on that is on a Sunday to people who've been important to you. So in fact, I used to call one of my old teachers from Nichols on a Sunday and renewed friendship, if you will. So in fact, it is posse, purpose, and play. We don't have data on any of it, believe it or not, on longevity. We don't have good data on any of the other stress management techniques versus those or versus other ones, but any of them that help you manage it should be major. And, there are several causes. So
Oh, no, we love that.
the simple conclusion, if you will, is that anything you do to manage stress is helpful. And there really are, if you will, the major life event stresses, divorce, having to move, take a new job, take a mortgage, etc. All of those major things, and 8 of them are financial, if you will, of the 14. But
Right.
there are also what we call nagging unfinished tasks that gnaw at you. So I had one of those that I constantly remember is we moved into a new house when we moved to Cleveland, and there was a tear in the screen door going in the back screen door. And I would go through that door every day. My wife said, should I get someone to fix it? And I said, no, I can fix that. Right. And every day I went through it, it gnawed at me. Finally, she got someone to fix it, and I stopped having that stress. But it is the nagging unfinished tasks are a major burden as well. So do the nagging unfinished tasks or get someone else, in my case, to do them. Talk to people about the major life stresses, a death in the family, financial problems, etc. And you'll be much, much better off. And then as you get up in the morning, just like I do, we have a purpose, and at least my purpose is to help many understand how much control they have and to help them and encourage them and nudge them to stay younger.
When I heard it from my sister Warren's wife, Purpose, Posse, and Play, I have been using it,
Love
think
it.
about it, and it is a helpful mnemonic that summarizes so many things that we can do. I schedule play dates. I did one today with my adult friends, and I'm 70. I know how important play is and exercise. And purpose is, to your point, why are we doing this podcast? It is to do what we are doing together. And posse is, really important to surround yourself with good company and be good company. And Mike, you are that for us. We are really grateful for you taking this time, and thank you for that, my friend.
I
Well,
want
thank
to ask
you.
Mike and Harry if you guys could both riff off the idea around purpose, because I think a lot of people struggle with that. And I know as people age, especially, I've known a lot of people I know how critical it is and yet how hard it is for some. How does purpose give people that energy and direction, and why does that matter?
I don't think we know other than a focus on the brain and a reason for living.
Okay.
I call it motivator, if you will. And that's why I spend 80 or 90 of those initial meeting minutes. And then I have the nurses and the transporters and everyone else work to find the purpose of the patient.
Okay.
That is what motivates them. And it can be money. It can be a relative. It can be their grandchildren. Grandchildren and sex are the 2 leading ones
I'm surprised.
in the group that's over 60 that I get to see in both executive health and wellness. As well as not the third one is a very interesting one. It's not being a burden to their kids.
Mm,
Whatever their purpose is, it gives them a reason to make choices that are healthful for them. And the key again is making sure they understand how much their choices matter.
mhm,
And it is, when we exercise, when you lift weights, for example, Eric,
mhm,
you injure a muscle and the muscle turns on a gene. It's not a weird process. It turns on a gene that repairs that muscle stronger. If you tear it and don't turn on that gene, all you do is get connective tissue and the muscle ends up weaker. But whoever engineered the human body engineered it so that muscle would get stronger. But in addition, when you use a muscle, it turns on a gene in the muscle that produces a small protein, arisen, goes to your brain. It in turn turns on brain-derived neurotrophic growth factor, and that makes your memory. Now, we don't know why that is, but maybe it was so you had muscle memory, and if something attacked you, you automatically reacted in a athletic enough way to get out. Your muscles responded. But when you jump on a hard surface, you injure your bone. Well, the great news is you actually turn on a gene in that bone that repairs it. When you do speed of processing games to your brain, you apparently injure the neurons, but you turn on a gene in the brain that repairs those neurons. So it makes all of the connections in the brain, that bone stronger, the muscle stronger. So one is to educate people so they understand it. Two is to understand there's a compounding. Do you know the rule of 72?
Uh,
I
uh, uh,
don't.
yes, if you, yeah, we'll just say it because it would take me a long time to explain it, but I think
So
it doubles.
72, if you divide the interest rate into 72, it's the number of years it takes to double your
Oh,
money. So if the
mhm,
interest rate is 9%, and 9 into 72 goes 8 times, in 8 years, you'll double your money. Well, guess what? There's an interest rate for staying younger. So keeping your LDL cholesterol going from 140 to 70 is an interest rate of about 4%. In blood pressure, it's about a 9% interest rate from a blood pressure of 135 over 90 to 120 over 75. So in 8 years, you double the benefit. So 9% reduction in risk at age 20. At age 30, it's an 18% reduction risk. Age 38, it's a 36% or whatever that is,
mhm,
36% reduction in
huh,
risk, etc. So the key point is making sure people understand a little of that and then finding their motivator. Is it um, their grandkids? Is it a specific grandkids? Is it having enough money to leave to a specific
mhm,
child or
right.
wife or charity or husband? So it is the specifics of trying to find that motivator that is the passion for waking up in the morning and deciding what are you going to do that day. Um,
Yep.
and
Making the right choice. Yeah.
So before I forget this, so it's a slightly different direction, but it really stimulated something in my own mind. I struggle or contemplate how we can find more motivators for being more kind, uplifting, and heliotropic for people. And what you just turned me on to is my job is to not just do that for myself, which is to have healthier relationships and more effective relationships, personally and professionally, by not losing my temper, by taking the high road, by biting my tongue, by being more kind, by reframing the guy who cut me off, by saying please and thank you. All these things that we do, but I can do more. And I want to help more people. And what you've given me is, Harry, find their purpose and they will lean into the reasons why they could hold the door or hold their tongue.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is at the clinic, what we found the purpose of a lot of people work is to have enough money for some other purpose. But that having enough money, whether it's working for it or whether it's working on your health, getting your health normal so that you can save more money or have devoted to spending it on another purpose, is a very strong motivator. So
Nice.
the interesting thing is you'd like people to have their own motivator, but money is a motivator so they can do something else that they have a purpose in life for. And that, and believe it or not, does capture a huge number of people. So trying to work with the government in trying to build a large incentive into Medicare, the exchanges in Medicaid, so that more people will do that and we will lower our medical costs and our deficit considerably.
I mean, I didn't even know some of that thinking was going on. You know, as part of that, you talk a little bit about relationships and having community and you call it Posse, which was great. Do relationships and avoiding negative relationships, do you think that that has a very strong connection to longevity?
Well, the data that is best on that is marriages, I suppose.
Okay.
Men benefit from a marriage at any age, women after age 50. Apparently, women don't benefit as much as men do from marriages, but a bad marriage ages you. A good marriage makes you younger. And that's how people characterize their marriages and then what happened to them in their length of life and when they develop disability. So we know that having a marriage that you like, that is positive for you, is a substantial, it's only a 3-year benefit, but it's a substantial benefit, as opposed to a marriage that is unhealthy. It's about a 3-year deficit in life expectancy. So there is that's the one of positive versus negative relationships. But relationships are, that seems like a small change, 6 years from the best to the worst. But if you look at relationships, they form a huge amount of stress in addition. So this is the amount in addition to the stress they cause. So, and stress is, as I've said, so for a divorce is about 8 years stress, if you will, aging you. So there are, in addition, other components of that. It's like saying, why is managing blood pressure so good? Just the number. Well, it's because the number has some spin-offs that we measure.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we dug in pretty well on Posse and purpose. I'd love to talk a little bit about play as well.
We don't know why that is so important, other than it focuses you on doing something other than worrying about stress. So all of these have a way of changing your mindset from focusing on stress to focusing on something else or solving the problem, if you will, in a problem-solving way with Posse. So I think it is the focus. Play can't be, I'm thinking about stress while I'm playing. Play has to be a total devotion to that game, that play event. Whether it is running and you're trying to and you're focusing on your stride or your technique, or whether it is, if you will, pickleball, where you're trying to win a point. You don't have time to think about something else. You're focusing on the acts you have.
So getting better at something, working towards something that's positive.
It's not necessarily getting better. It is just your mind is totally focused on that, so it can't. So it's, one of the meditations I heard, and I'm trying to remember who said it, but I love it. and I'm not giving proper attribution because I can't remember who said it, but it said it is, in America, if you unplug something, give it a few minutes and then plug it back in, everything goes a little better. That's what play is. You're unplugging from the stress, and then after you finish playing, you're plugging it back in, but things are better because you unplugged for a few minutes.
So these little nuggets, these little beauties are forever sticky for me, Mike. I mean, I cannot unthink about purpose, posse, and play, and unplugging for a bit will make it better. It's just great metaphor stories, anecdote example for me, and I think our listeners, and I'll use it forever to help more people. Find people's purpose, whatever it might be, yours or anybody else, and do whatever it is to fuel that. I love this business of do what works for you. Mike, in your journey, I think you're 80-ish, because I know Warren is 80-ish, my brother-in-law. What have you learned to do with all of your knowledge and wisdom and practices that you didn't used to do, but you do now that you know it's more?
If there are 184 things to do, I do 182 or 3 of them. I don't get enough sleep when I have too much stress. So, but do everything else. So, if you will, the data are fairly real to me because I've done the work to understand the data and read the articles, and know how that they're replicated. So when you say, what have the first thing I did was understand that it's more than physiology. We used to think, like I've already told you, when you exercise, it changes a gene. We used to think that was just physiology. You increase blood flow. Well, you do that. But the major benefit is that you turn on genes that make your hippocampus, your memory center, bigger. So what I'm saying is that the thing that got me to change was more understanding, and then as I've told you, I read, like I know what the science is, and I know that, for example, resveratrol looks like it works in every animal study and has failed every human trial. No reason to do that wallet biopsy and pay for it. On the other hand, there are things that work, such as collagen.
Well, I think it was actually leading into the next piece of this, which is, Harry was talking about what Mike got out of this changes he's made and all that. And I think one of the things that I've really gotten out of today already is you're not genetically programmed to have a certain, age, longevity. So I'm empowered to make these choices, and there's just more choices than I realize. So I think I'm feeling like I'm a listener now, kind of just engaged, going, wow, I'm going to learn more about this. I'm going to get into the show notes and find all of these resources and try and do more of the 84
okay,
things.
so hold on a second. Mike, here's my question. If you do 182 out of 184, I get intimidated by 184. I think, oh my God, there's so many. There's just too many to do. Which one should I do? There are too many. And it's overwhelming. I want to make, for our listeners and for myself, don't worry about 184. Do blah, 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 blah.
Just do 3 things you like doing. So we don't allow anyone to change more than 3 behaviors at once. So, because it becomes, as you said, overwhelming. So if you like salmon, go and say, I'm going to have salmon this week and I'm substituting it for XYZ that isn't healthy. I'm not going to have, I'm going to find, there are 5 food felons you want to avoid. Simple sugars, added syrup, simple carbs or stripped carbs, red and processed red meat, and fried food. So I'm going to avoid those for the rest of my life. Or I'm going to pick just 4 days a year. That's what my wife and I do, where we do that, on our anniversary. All we have is champagne and souffles. Kind of the worst kind of combination, but we only do it 1 day a year, right? So the point is, and I can show you my steps. I get 10,000 steps a day. I do resistance training twice a week. I'm heck or high water. This is Wednesday. I'm going to be flying at night, so I can't do my usual evening Wednesday. I normally do Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday morning, and Saturday, and Sunday morning, Wednesday evening. So I did it this morning. So you just make adjustments to make sure you do, therefore, physical activities that you can do that change your rate of aging. And I do the minimum I can do for the maximum benefit.
Love that.
And
Love
so,
that.
you like blueberries, have blueberries every day or 3 days a week. So olive oil instead of fried foods, cook in olive oil. So the point is, none of it is rocket science. Just pick 3 things to do, ingrain those. Each habit takes about, they say 61 days to ingrain. I think it takes about 180 days for me to ingrain. And then you go on to the next thing after you've ingrained it. So it's not, and we used to give, and we still do, a list of priorities, which things to do in what order. But people don't do that. They do the ones they want, and that's the way it should be. So even if stress management and calling 6 friends on a Sunday is the most important thing you can do, you don't want to do it, don't do it. Do something else. So find things you like to do that are beneficial. We say this, food is like a marriage. You wouldn't marry someone who's trying to kill you every day. You shouldn't eat food trying to kill you every day. So give up those 5 food felons, but everything else is great, right? You like avocados? I love guacamole. Yeah, I have it. Do I visit the Anchor Bar anymore? No, because the Anchor Bar has fried wings, and much as I love fried wings, I know that I can have other food that I love just as much, that actually makes me younger rather than older. So
what a common sense approach. I mean, you make it, I think that's the thing, is people get too overwhelmed. They try and be too perfect, and then they walk away from it all. So I think you've reminded us, first, we're empowered to make these
and
changes.
let me give you another word on that.
Please.
Make a turn. Okay, so YOU, a U-turn. That is, if something happens that is messing up with what you do, don't stop. Just make a U-turn on that one thing. Everyone's going to make mistakes. And as I said, I have 4 days that are ridiculous, right, a year, but I love them.
So we have one of our little phrases is do the next right thing, which is, for now, I'm going to copy you and say, make a U-turn. Same thing.
Make it a U-turn. And
I love that.
You at this time, and then you're hitting our trademark.
Yeah. We like doing well, and this isn't just about living longer. You started from the very beginning of this recording talking about being brighter, living with intention and energy, and you gave us that sense right away that this just isn't about just food, just exercise. This is a mindset too.
It's a mindset in that you get to control your genes and your risk of disability and death. Doesn't mean something won't, a car can't come out of the woodwork and hit you, right? Something else. But to the large degree, you're maximizing your choices and your benefits in life. And yeah, I have this purpose, but if your purpose is playing with your grandkids, this helps you get on the floor and play with your grandkids. Yeah. If your purpose is more sex, it helps with more sex. Or if your purpose is, anything you want, getting healthy helps you make those choices and do it with vigor.
So I asked, because you're such an icon in this field, I asked Warren and Patty, would Mike be a good person to have on our podcast? Is he heliotropic? And they both resoundingly said, absolutely. Meaning you're generous and wise and not full of yourself with, do you know who I am? And I want you to know that those qualities come through, and we want more people to be that way because they and everyone around them will be better, especially as a physician or as a person in positions of leadership. So hats off to you. Do you work at being a lovely human being, or are you that?
You don't have to work at it. I mean, basically, it's learning empathy. The Cleveland Clinic has a great video. It's the most watched video of any hospital video on the internet. It's a YouTube video on empathy. So it started with Toby Cosgrove, our CEO, and the person who helped a lot of our programs in wellness and help us design all of this and broke all the barriers so we could do it. But he was asked by a MBA student. He was giving a talk. The Harvard Business School uses Cleveland Clinic as an example of well-managed, large corporation hospital. And Toby was giving a talk there, and one of the graduate students raised her hand in the question and answer period and said, Dr. Cosgrove, do you teach empathy? I took my father to the Mayo Clinic for his heart procedure rather than the Cleveland Clinic, even though you had better outcome results. But the reason I did it is they have empathy. And so Toby looked the word up in the dictionary, and after that, learned what it meant, and then he Googled the word empathy to be specific. And then after that, there was a major campaign on empathy at the Cleveland Clinic. And that's all of it. And example, two things. One is we all learn from people asking questions and students.
Right.
And the second thing is empathy is probably the most important human characteristic from the standpoint of living life. And it's the way you reframe situations. Someone cuts me off while driving. It's a woman. I think she's going to the hospital for a baby, and it's a guy. I think he's going to take care of his wife. And it does get some interesting comments from me in my mind, which obviously refocuses when you see the very old guy and you say, well, why is he having another kid?
Or grandpa.
I love it. So bottom line, that you and we and everyone can learn more empathy and to be more skilled in that wonderful quality, which is heliotropic. I love that you said it. I love that people can learn it. And
do go on the web and look at the empathy video. It's in
the show notes. I put it in the show notes on this podcast. Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got Rana Odwish's, when we did her podcast, she's a physician that wrote a book and has a whole training program with the University of Michigan now around empathy in healthcare. And that was a really enlightening discussion too.
I love that you brought it up, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so inspired. I have to go look up and see how many of the 184 I'm missing. We work really hard at it. Harry is excellent and on top of all of our healthcare needs all the time. So we're doing pretty well, but I know I've got a bunch more to do.
I'm psyched. I feel like my cup runneth over, and you have given us so much, both generously and so articulately, if there's such a word, that all I can say is thank you, my friend.
You're allowed to make up words. Our company that has the AI coach on longevity is called for Youngevity. So YOUNGEVITY. It's a made up word that shows that you can be young as you get older.
Love that.
Love that.
Well, and so for our listeners, don't get overwhelmed. We talked about a lot. Wherever you are today, we invite you to take one small action, something you heard today. I know I've got a laundry list, but reach out to someone you care about. That was a new one for me to remind myself. It doesn't have to be just that one call to home parents on Sunday. There's more people in my life to take a walk, smile, whatever it takes. Thank you for joining us. We are truly grateful for today.
Thank you. Privilege.